Broadcasting live from the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona, in the heart of the great American Southwest. It's Erskine Overnight. Now, here's Erskine.
Robert Chapman, the publisher of the International Forecaster. He's heard on stations all over the world, and his audience in Europe is as strong, if not stronger, than in the U.S. They know what's going on. It's the newsletter examines world economic conditions and major events. We talk a lot about the U.S. because, well, I'm based here in the U.S., but he talks about world economic conditions because they're all interlinked. A forecast of economic trends, and we were talking before one went on the air. He was predicting $1,200 silver, and he said, hey, it's a good bet to know that silver is going to be above $20 and gold above $1,200. It's even more conservative. If you had gone with it, you've made even more money. He told you 3 years ago, the municipal bonds, they're in trouble. We just learned how badly they are in trouble. Mr. Chapman presents the future headlines today, the world view that you're simply not going to get anywhere else. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to the International Forecaster. He's got a great special on it. This new year, you cannot simply afford not to subscribe to the International Forecaster if you want to know what's really going on. We've got a civil war, perhaps looking at us in Europe. England is absolutely done. They're thinking about proposing a ban on all protests. They've been fingerprinting all school children, which is against the European Union privacy provisions. England is in serious trouble. It's beyond serious trouble. It is on the absolute edge with what's been happening, and they did go after the would-be King Charles and Camilla, and the expression on her face was priceless. You've got college students rioting daily in England, and they're smart. Mr. Chapman, this is major news, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is in England. I mean, they haven't seen anything like this for centuries. And young people today are listening to talk radio and perusing the Internet. They're very bright. They have the tools that we didn't have 50 years ago. And they're saying, hey, we got these people sitting here, and they're worth trillions of pounds, and they're telling us to triple the cost of going to university. Now, that means only the rich can go to the university. And that's what they're yelling about. At the same time, the retired, the poor, what they're doing is starving, and it's going to get worse. I mean, back in 94, they looted the pension plans by taxing them. I think the figure was $578 billion they took away from them. And it's a long story. And now, we've had Argentina 2 years ago do the same thing. And then Hungary did it about 3 to 4 weeks ago. The Assembly in Paris did the same thing last week, starting to loot the pension plans. And there's legislation in the United States to do the same thing. Now, whether they can get a pass on it, I don't know. But if that person who calls himself president, who's an illegal alien, if he were to use a executive order to do that, you might have a revolution in America. I mean, this is not going to stop. It's going to get worse in Europe, and it's going to spread to the United States.
According to your publication, you said that they talked about this, the U.S. plan to seize IRAs, 401ks, and replace them with 3% a year paying annuities, which is just the same as stealing it all. Then they've already had high-level talks about this, haven't they?
They certainly have, and they've been meeting in secret, particularly the Senate and the Senate subcommittee. They're going to spring this thing, and all I can tell you people out there, you should see your CPA and think very seriously of lightening up on all or part of your retirement plans, IRAs and 401ks. If you're stuck on your 401ks, you get fired. If you drop them, then borrow against them. That's the way to do the 401k. Borrow as much as you can and put the money in gold and silver-related assets. I'll tell you,
they charge you a penalty. They charge you a penalty, but you're saying pay the penalty, get out of them before they get stolen.
Only if you're under 59 and a half. If you're older than that, you don't pay a penalty. But you're going to pay tax no matter which way you go on this thing, either now or later. And with this threat in front of you, it may not happen. It may not happen for 2 years. I don't know. All I know is what they want to do. And they've done it in other countries, so the precedent is there. Read the last issue of the International Forecaster, which came out yesterday. It's all there.
Yeah, it's all there. You talk about the UK abolishing the dividend tax credit, France, assets from equity, Ireland, half going to the European banks for the bailout, and in Hungary and Argentina, they've nationalized the pensions. All these countries, the UK, France, Ireland, Hungary, Argentina, have already taken them away. So if you're thinking it can't happen here, it certainly could happen here, and they're talking about it happening here. And you're looking at 2011 to be a big year for gold and silver. Official inflation, gold should be where? 2,400, but the real inflation, 7,700. We've got a long way to go, don't we, Mr. Chapman?
Yeah, we do. And it's going to be rocky and nasty all the way. Because the people who are behind the scenes at the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberger Group, the Group of 30, the Greek Group of 300, the Royal Institute, on, the Illuminati, they're not going to quit because they can't. Because if they lose, they're going to lose it all.
Well, they've got a couple of things that they're losing on. One of the things that they're losing on is the European Union. Their problems have just started, you're saying. Ireland, Greece, Portugal, Spain, Italy, that's on the edge of collapse. And if it holds in, it'll hold in until Spain. And when Spain goes, they're under. But even the people in Germany are very close to rioting because Germany is about to be put up against the wall to bail these other countries out. So there's nobody left to bail them out. There isn't enough money to bail them out. And this grand putting together of all the Europeans, if they can't make the European Union work, what makes them think they can make a world government work?
They can't. They're insane. And this has been going on for years and years and years. And the public never knew about it. I never discovered it until I went into counterintelligence for the U.S. government. And I spent the last 50 years of my life studying it and being involved and trying to stop it. This is the most terrible thing that happened to the people in the world ever.
I don't think you had to stop it. I think they're being stopped by their own greed. They're being stopped by their own taking away the people's sovereignty. You're talking about tradition that goes back hundreds of years. You're not going to strip Portugal of their sovereignty. You're not going to strip Ireland of its sovereignty. They can certainly try. They can take their money. They can take everything else. But the peoples of these countries want their sovereignty, and they're right at the precipice of fighting for it, aren't they? So we're talking about civil war against the European Union all across Europe at this point.
Well, I think the trigger will be, finally, when the euro breaks up. I don't know how far away it is. If I had to guess, I'd say about 6 months, maybe longer. And the problems of Spain, because Spain's such a much larger...
We're talking with Robert Chapman, the international forecaster. It's year-end, so we're making some predictions. We know pretty much what happened last year. We're going to talk about some of the things next year. And one of the things that you need to do is subscribe to the international forecaster. We've been telling you about that for years now. Now it's more critical than ever. Your wallet, your life may depend on subscribing to the international forecaster so you'll know what's going on, and not only know what's going on, but this helps you prepare for the future. Like we said at the beginning, Mr. Chapman told you gold was going to be $1,200, Silver was going to be at least $20 by the end of the year. He was conservative. Gold's at $1,400. Silver's at $30. If you had followed the recommendations at the start of the year, you'd be sitting very, very well financially. I thank you, Mr. Chapman, because I've followed your recommendations, and it's got a long way to go, unlike what some of the pundits are saying. There is some good news. One of the good news is that it looks like Obamacare is going to be certainly have a lot of it stripped away, and the Republican Congress is making some major strides on that. But more importantly than that, you've got a federal judge who just ruled that you can't force Americans to buy health insurance. That, to me, is a major plus. There were things they could have done on health care, but when you saw the stocks of all of these insurance companies rise, you knew it was a bad situation going in, didn't you?
That's right. And I'm afraid that it's going to end up in the Supreme Court, and they're no more free of being bought off than the House or the Senate. And so I don't think it's going to augur well. I think they will find against and for the U.S. government, and that could trigger real major demonstrations in the country.
Yeah, when people are forced to buy this so-called health insurance, and there's so much else in that Obama medical thing that is absolutely turns us right around the corner. It basically is a socialism bill. It's turning America into a completely socialistic state, in my opinion. And I don't think you'll argue with that, will you?
Not at all. It doesn't matter what you call it, whether it's socialism or fascism or communism. It's all bad. And,
it's all a takeover of our rights and our freedoms. Now, one of the things that Americans have done, they've cut back on their buying. They've cut way back on the amount that they're spending, 17% difference this year on their credit cards. They're paying off their credit cards. They're getting out of debt. This is not what the government wants because they want us spending money. But this is the prudent thing that people do when they get over their head is to quit digging. Once you're in a hole, the first thing you have to do is quit digging and then find a way to get out. And that's exactly what the American people are doing. We're so much smarter than our government. Why can't the government figure out that it's time to quit digging? The people have figured it out.
It's because they're paid off. They don't realize they're going to be the last ones thrown to the alligators.
Well, the people are doing the right thing to quit digging when they're in over their heads. Now, I'm looking at the situation, and you've got a country like Canada where the household debt is $6.04 trillion, 148% of their disposable income. The people are just, in Canada, they have been on a spending spree with other people's money to a point where they're actually in worse shape than we are over here, aren't they?
That's right. And even the PM this past week said that they had better start cutting back because their debt, I think, was 50% of GDP, which is very high. And things are starting to slow down in Canada, and I think real estate's going to be going lower. So I think they got plenty of problems.
Oh, they've got a lot of problems over there, and the people, what they vote for doesn't seem to matter. You also have home prices. You're expecting another 10% drop next year, and home prices are 30% below April 2006, but commercial is 43% below October 2007. We're not hearing much about the commercial property. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with that, Mr. Chapman.
Well, it continues to deteriorate, but what the government has done is guaranteed the loans to the banks, and that's why you don't hear much about it. Everything's supposedly okay, that sort of thing, and of course it's not.
So from a real estate standpoint, you're looking for them to continue to fall. Real unemployment, 22.25%. Unemployment, is there any change that you're seeing coming forward next year? I mean, it seems like the president was so intent on getting past this health care bill, but Americans what we really care about is getting jobs, because if people aren't working, is there any way that you can see to bring us out of this malaise that's been created worldwide? Is there anything short of a revolution at this point?
No, they're on their way. They're not going to turn back. People should be putting dehydrated and freeze-dried food away, getting a water filter, and also they should be able to defend their families. And then you go to gold and silver coins and shares after that. It's coming. I know people who have been working for companies for anywhere between 10 and 40 years that are getting laid off. And it's going to continue. And it's not going to get better. And more people are going to lose their homes, their jobs, their vehicles. They'll be living under bridges.
Now, they built a lot of FEMA camps and this type of thing. Why have they not opened those up to a lot of the homeless?
Because they're saving them for people like you and I.
Well, at least we'll get 3 squares a day, which is better than a lot of people. It does seem to me, though, that they would have opened them up to a lot of the homeless people and allowed them to at least have a place to stay for a short period of time, at least.
That's not their intention. I mean, look what they did in Germany during the war. Unbelievable. And we cannot allow it to happen in America. And the military is behind the people, not the government.
And I wonder how many in the military know that they took an oath of office to defend and protect the Constitution and not the government.
Well, they know that. They're quite well aware of it, even though the President of the United States is Supreme Commander. And they're supposed to follow his dictates. And none of them are very happy about the conviction of a doctor who refused to go to his next duty station.
No, and that happened, and that whole report's in the International Forecaster. We'll be right back after these messages. Please listen to what Mr. Chapman said. Buy gold, buy silver, buy lead for your guns, and gold, silver, and lead. Think of those 3 metals. And the other thing, dehydrated foods, good quality. They'll last you for a long time, and they're a whole lot tastier than they used to be, and a good water filter. You need to be planning for yourself. One of the other situations that we've got arising, and you've written quite a bit about this, is the state budget cuts. 31 states and Puerto Rico, $82.1 billion deficits. Illinois, looking at short-term loans from Wall Street. They can't even borrow anywhere else. North Carolina, $500,000 more on top of their deficit. Washington State, $1.1 billion deficit. Minnesota, $6.2 billion over the next 2 years. 31 states and Puerto Rico, major deficits. This is, and with revenues coming in from a lot of these states on sales taxes dropping, property taxes dropping. That was very interesting what you were talking about, buying extra filing cabinets because so many property taxes, people are protesting the amount that they're paying in property taxes. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the states, Mr. Chapman. They're in serious trouble, more so because they can't print their own money.
That's right. And California, I guess Illinois is the worst. And there's no way out. And they don't intend to go out. They're all going to go bankrupt. And the only way they can get money after a fashion will be from the federal government. And they really don't have any money. And so all the largesse that they've been getting, this Build America bond program, I think, is going to be over. And either the taxes go up or they fire 40 or 50% of the people who work for the different municipalities, or they go bankrupt. And we predicted this 5, 6, 7 years ago. Well,
one state that's taking some dramatic...
people to get out of real estate.
The one state that's taken some dramatic stance and seems to be coming out of it a little bit is New Jersey, since they got rid of Mr. Corzine. They seem to be turning it around a little bit, but it's an awfully difficult and painful thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think they'll be very successful. I'm very optimistic that what the governor is doing. Corzine was a disaster, a despicable human being, former CEO of Goldman Sachs. Just another crook.
Now, you know, I have to say, speaking of crooks, Madoff, it looks like it's closer to $50 billion instead of the $2 billion that they've recovered. That situation, even despite his son's death, just keeps adding up to where he actually stole much more than anybody ever imagined, didn't he?
That's right, and we announced it 2 weeks before it happened.
Absolutely incredible. Another crook on Wall Street who was supported by other crooks who let it go on and on and on. Nobody lost their jobs over it.
And 10 years, one gentleman told the SEC, took his own time and his own money to explain to the Securities Exchange Commission for 10 years. Now, why was the SEC protecting Madoff and his people? Good question.
And why did they keep their jobs? Why did they keep their jobs? Nobody was penalized, were they?
Look, it's a criminal enterprise. The bureaucrats in Washington, the politicians, the payoffs, the transnational conglomerates, the bankers, and in Wall Street, where I worked for 28 years, own my own firm. I know what they're doing. I know how they do it. And none of them defend themselves because they can't. So I can go out and tell everybody what they're doing, tell them the truth, and these guys can't do anything. They don't want to lift the blanket, so to speak.
And they're getting better bonuses, year-end bonuses, than ever before.
Well, Goldman's going to give out several $100 million. I mean, the whole thing is madness. And the American public just stands dumbfounded, but it's understandable because half of them are dumber than rocks.
Let's talk about one other piece of madness that you have that I never would have known if I hadn't read the International Forecaster. 84 million Americans or Mexicans are now Trusted Travel Program members. They pass up all security if they fly on Mexican Airlines going in or out of the United States because they are Trusted Traveler Program members. What the heck is this about, Mr. Chapman?
They go in and they have their fingerprints taken and a biometric eye scan and all of the information on a chip in a card, which they have to insert when they go into the country. And nothing gets checked because they're trustful people. What they don't understand is that all of that information is being put into data banks. This is all about data collection. For the Mexican government, which is Calderon, PAN, who'll be out of office in another year in total, they won't be able to win anything, believe me. The people are really disgusted with them, especially what they've done to business in Mexico. But anyway, this is what the TSA machines to look at you, to make sure you're not carrying something, and these frisking and patting down or all of this horrible things that they do to people at airports. That's why they persist in doing it, because they want that card for every American. That's what they're up to.
Now, Calderon, talking about Mexico, he stole the election last time.
That's
Matter
right.
of fact, he had to be elected through the back door. They couldn't even have him go into the Congress of Mexico because the Congress people in Mexico knew it. They were rioting against him, against the mayor of Mexico City. He stole that election. Was he supported by the U.S.? Yes, right?
That's right. It was Bush and his buddies, and they stole the election.
in Mexico as well as in the U.S. Now, coming up next year, are we going to have some civil unrest in this country, in your opinion?
Absolutely, but I don't know when. Those events have not manifested themselves yet. The demonstrations are going on in Europe. It'll spread. And what the catalyst could be is a breakdown of the euro and then the European Union. And that's going to affect all countries. And so I think probably that's about the time things could get different and more dangerous in America. But it is going to come. I mean, you know, they might have extended unemployment now for, what is it, another year and or 13 months in this bill that they're passing. And
yeah, but that's not going to be enough.
No.
We one of the other things that you mentioned, and we'll talk about it when you get back, is the greed of American companies. More when we get back on Erskine Overnight with Robert Chapman, the international forecaster. Now, underline international. Here's the Christmas season, and with the country in as dire a state as it's in, Walmart decided to stop paying their people an extra $1 for Sunday work. Talk about greed. You're talking about the richest families in America can't pay their workers $1 an hour extra for Sunday work, except in the 2 states where it's mandated. This is unconscionable, Mr. Chapman, that these companies would exhibit this much greed and put out these programs. Oh, we're helping the community, we're helping this, that, and the other, and do this to their own employees. I mean, don't they realize that your employees build a company? Your employees are the ones, the first line when they see it. Have they got no conscience at all than to take away $1 an hour for Sunday pay from all their employees with Walmart?
I don't know what these people are thinking of. You know, it's all they're interested in the shareholder, and the shareholders are the rich. And there's other people as well, but that's the main ones. They control all that wealth, and they run around in their $4,000 suits, screwing everybody, and many of them are criminals. But they never get to court. They just pay a fine and go on their merry way and keep on doing what they're doing.
That's why it made me almost happy to see what happened in England, that they would go after the right people, the would-be King Charles and Camilla. The people understand that these people are throwing a $50 million wedding while they're tripling the rates on the college students, and the pensioners have been cut to bare bones where they're starving, and the same thing with children, and they're throwing a $50 million wedding. This is very reminiscent of the Marie Antoinette let them eat cake, isn't it?
1789. 300,000 people left the guillotine without their heads out of 30 million people, and that's a large number. And it could happen again. And I like hearing the story again because I want the people on Wall Street and in banking to know, we know what you're doing. And if you think you're going to get away with it, you're crazy.
And they are crazy. Like you said, some of the things that we were talking about earlier, these people are nuts. They are sociopaths. There's no question about it. How much is enough? Now, coming up, you're expecting next year to be a very volatile year. So if there's one time to subscribe to the International Forecaster, if you haven't yet, you've got to now, because next year is going to be, if anything, more volatile than this year. You've still got a special going on the International Forecaster, Mr. Chapman?
Oh, we sure do. And all I have to do is call 877-479-8178, toll free, 877-479-8178. They have a special 1-year free subscription to the International Forecaster. And you can get a free copy there as well. And it's the most terrific deal I've ever seen. And was my idea. It was Ted Anderson's idea. And it's a terrific publication. And
all you have to do is buy one French franc, and you've got your first gold. Or if you're already a buyer of gold, you've got yourself gold. We're talking about tremendous savings. We're talking $100 savings at least, and you're getting yourself some gold. And look at what it's done. If you just bought the gold back when you started with this deal that Ted Anderson offered, if you just bought the gold, it's gone up enough where you have got the gold and the publication free, and it's going to continue going up. Like Mr. Chapman says, gold should be $2,400 if you're talking about their official inflation, which is about as bogus as it gets, or it should be $7,700 if you're talking about real inflation. You're talking about the euro being in trouble, the dollar being in trouble, currencies all over the world in trouble. Gold is your place that you can go, gold and silver. Get yourself a piece of gold and subscribe to the International Forecaster free, 877-479-8178. Make that a New Year's resolution that you won't break. Here's all you have to do. Just get a pencil and paper, write it down, 877-479-8178. I've got to thank you and Judy, because without your publication, without what you've done, I would have been absolutely lost. A lot of people ask me why I do this program, and they ask you why you keep pushing, because it's not like you need the money. It's not like I need the money. The question is, listening and talking to Robert Chapman makes it worthwhile because you have made me money. More money than I'd make just doing any other job. You have saved me money. And you've been a good friend over the years. You do this because you see what's coming, and you're fighting the New World Order over the entire world, and more people are starting to awaken. It doesn't take everybody to wake up. You don't have to get this information to everybody. It only takes a small percentage of people to wake up, because people intuitively know when they're being screwed. And you bring it out, and you let other people understand it, and there are enough people who understand this to where I think the one thing that they can't deal with, we've got the numbers on our side, don't we?
We sure do. And we're waking them up every single day, and many of the other programs here on GCN, they're just terrific. Every Friday I'm on with Alex Jones, and we're waking people up everywhere. And
all over the world. You're also on internationally in Europe. More when we get back with Robert Chapman, the International Forecaster. Fulfill your New Year's obligation. What you want to do is subscribe to the International Forecaster, 877-479-8178. Buy a piece of gold, you get it free. You're not going to get a better deal than that, period. And you're going to have some peace of mind. It is, I think, the best deal that you're going to get this entire season. 877-479-8178. Next year, you're expecting to start off with a whimper with a lot of deflation for the first half, and then the inflation's supposed to pick up toward the end of the year. But time schedules are running a little bit funny, aren't they, Mr. Chapman? Is that pretty much what you're expecting for next year? Let's talk about the inflation. Let's talk about housing for next year, and what else you're seeing for next year, 2011.
Well, monetization shouldn't take more than 1 to 3 months, and it's in action right now. So we're going to start seeing higher inflation at the first of the year. You've got to come up with your own figures. That's why people subscribe to the International Forecaster, and because the government lies about everything. They're talking 1.2% inflation. It's somewhere between 5 and 6%. Excuse me, 6 and 7%. And if you go by the 1980 figures, it's 8.25%. So a compromise is 6 to 7. Where is it going to be next year? Over 14. Are we going to have hyperinflation? Wow. Probably. And when? within the next 2 years. Some people, whose opinion I respect, think it's going to happen quicker, and it's going to be more violent than that, from a financial viewpoint, and they may very well be right. It doesn't matter who's right. All we know is it's coming, and you got to prepare for it. That's what the program's about: preparation, listening.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing to ask you about, the stock market, way overpriced, going to be having a major correction next year?
I think it's at least one-third overpriced. And if that is so, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which right now is in the vicinity of 11,450, somewhere in there, could easily go to 8,000. That would be a one-third correction. Could it go deeper? Yes, it could. Where's the next support level? 6,550. And that's very doable, and that's where it went a couple of years ago. And we called that at 14,000, and we called 6,600 is actually what we called. We were up by 50 Dow points, which is really phenomenal. And we were one of only 2% of all economists, analysts, and newsletter writers. And so in the meantime, gold is going to go up. Gold is going up now because it's now the world's reserve currency. It's just that most people don't know it yet. And then when the inflation comes, you're going to get a bumper.
That number, once again, 877-479-8178. Best wishes for the new year to both yourself and your lovely wife. Thank you for all you're doing, Mr. Chapman. We'll be talking with you next year. May God bless you both, and may you have a wonderful year. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and the same to you, and thank you all for listening.